choosing your short-term rental market. This is the single biggest contributing factor to your short-term rental success other than your own management. Choosing the right market is of the utmost importance when it comes to short-term rental investing. And today I am going to go through a few ways to analyze markets to help you choose the best and most profitable market for your investment. First, we'll need to talk through the three main types of areas to invest in short-term rentals. Number one is the metro market. Examples include Nashville, Austin, Seattle, San Diego, places like that. These are areas where a lot of people live because there's a lot of industry outside of tourism. So there's a lot of jobs, which means a lot of people need to live there. There are also a lot of hotels, a lot of hotel presence in these types of markets because the short-term rental is kind of a new thing in these markets as of the past 15 years when Airbnb and VRBO kind of first came on the scene. The second type of market that you can invest in short-term rentals is what I call the fly to vacation rental market. So think places that most people go on vacation, not a big urban area. Typically, these are true vacation markets, but they're places that are big, expensive vacations that typically require a flight. These are big, expensive vacations that people are waiting all year to go. They're saving up for years to go to for a big vacation for their family. And it's a big deal when they do get to go. These are areas that are typically very short-term rental friendly, but there will be some regulations because these are areas that people have been renting short-term rentals instead of hotels or alongside hotels for a very long time. Think condos in Hawaii, cabins in Aspen. And these are areas that there will be some regulation, but not to the point that a lot of metro markets will have because there's not a lot of primary residents that don't want short-term rentals next to them. The third and my favorite type of market to invest in short-term rentals, the type of market where I keep all my personal short-term rental investments, is what I call the regional drivable vacation market. So these are areas that are majorly dependent on tourism, not a lot of industry outside of there typically, but they are areas that are really affordable to travel because the majority of the vacationers that visit these markets are driving in and not flying. So not requiring a flight for most vacationers is something that's very important to affordability and also important to, health concerns such as COVID-19. A lot of people didn't want to get on flights last year when COVID was a really big issue because they didn't want to get sick. So these are areas that, because you don't have to fly to them in most cases, these are areas that did not suffer as much during COVID. Once you've decided which type of market you want to focus on, the next thing you need to do, and arguably the most important thing you need to do, is check the regulations. The regulations are the most important thing to look at when you're analyzing a market for short-term rentals. You don't want to go into a market where the regulations are really volatile and they're constantly changing because you might buy something that a new regulation just regulates you right out of being able to use as a short-term rental. You also don't want to look in areas that have no regulations. A lot of people make this mistake that they want zero regulations. If a market has no regulations, it's not if the regulation is coming, it is when the regulation is coming. What you do want to look for is an area that has long established regulations. So that's why I focus on vacation markets, because a lot of these markets, whether they're drive to or fly to, have long-standing regulations. These areas figured out how to monetize short-term rentals with the small occupancy tax decades ago. So they fought this battle years and years and years ago. They figured it out. And now it would be way too detrimental financially to the cities and counties to ever regulate against short-term rentals. So if you take nothing else from this video, please make sure to check the regulations and choose wisely. Choose an area where the regulations are stable and have been around for a long time. The next thing you want to pay close attention to when deciding on a market is tourism. You want to buy something that people are going to come visit. You want to buy in a market where people are coming on a consistent basis. For example, of what not to do. My dad has a fishing camp in West Point, Mississippi. And although he loves that camp and would love to short-term rent it, not a lot of tourism happening in West Point, Mississippi. So it would not be a good investment. So he bought something somewhere else to short-term rent. So you want to make sure you're buying something where people are coming to visit. How do you determine that? That's a really great question. So if you're buying in a vacation market, For example, a national park market. The national parks websites have tourism data all the way back to when the parks were established on each specific park in the country. Great place to get data. If it's not a national park market, but maybe something that is also very, very tourism heavy, like a beach market, the local chamber of commerce, local department of tourism will often have detailed data on the tourism in the areas that you can kind of see the history of. So make sure that you're buying in a place where there is a lot of tourism, a lot of demand, because that's going to determine how occupied you are. And the last pillar of choosing a vacation rental market is to look at the income data. So you want to look at the data for short-term rentals in the market. There are several places to get these things. You want to get as many data points as possible because no one set of data is going to be perfect. You don't want to take just one set of data's word for it, so to speak. A few recommendations that I have: AirDNA, which is a data company that specializes in measuring the performance of short-term rentals. Their data is not perfect, but it is good and will give you a good market-wide picture of what properties of the size you are looking at have been doing over the past few years. I think their data goes back to 2014. Another great place to look is Price Labs market dashboards. So if you are planning on buying a short-term rental, you are most likely going to have to get a subscription to Price Labs or some other pricing tool. And I recommend getting it before you even buy a property because the Price Labs market dashboard feature has excellent data on market-wide performance. So I'd definitely check that out as well. Another great place to get data that we as just regular people can't get are the big national property managers such as Vacasa, Evolve, Turnkey. I think actually Vacasa just bought Turnkey. But these are big, big companies that have access to data that you and I, as just regular people, don't have access to. So you can give all of these companies a call and ask them about the market that you're interested in. And they have lots of good data, spreadsheets, graphs, things like that. So definitely get as much data on occupancy rate, average price per night, and gross annual income on all of the markets that you're interested in looking at, and compare that to the home values and see if those numbers start making sense. We'll go over how to analyze an individual property in another video. Tell us what you guys think. What type of market is the best type of market to invest in short-term rentals? Where's your most profitable short-term rental? Drop us a line in the comments and we'll see you on the forums.